Court's ongoing trial, Justin Bieber has broken his silence on the speculation he may have been a victim of Sin Diddy's Combs, who is currently standing trial for sex trafficking charges. My correct people, watch the full details of this video and don't skip any part of this video. If you are true watching, you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel, kindly do well to subscribe. Turn on the bell button so you will always get notified and watch the full rest of the video.
Day 5 in the case. Cassie Ventura back on the stand, but the big news coming from outside of court as Justin breaks his silence about his relationship with Diddy.
For the next 48 hours, he's with me. So, and we gonna go full crazy.
The seemingly troubled pop star speaking out, denying rumors that he was victimized by Sean Combs in the past. Justin's rep saying, although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who were genuinely harmed by him. Harvey, everybody thinks that Justin's unraveling, or apparent alleged unraveling, is tied to the Diddy trial and to Diddy himself. I just spoke to Harvey Levin about his new Hulu special, TMZ Investigates What Happened to Justin Bieber. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we looked into that, and we didn't find anything. What we found was he was friends with Diddy's sons, but there was no real relationship at all. The business about, we're going to go wild for 48 hours, what we ultimately concluded, based on what we could see, was that it was all performative.
TMZ just dropped a new investigative special called What Happened to Justin Bieber that looks into all of this.
It's not cheap to be the biggest pop star in the world. He is the biggest pop star in the world. Of course he has to charter jets. Of course he has mega mansions.
How on earth do you blow through $1 billion?
It's a really good question. And earlier today, I talked with TMZ's boss, who you just saw, Harvey Levin. What is happening with Justin Bieber?
A lot. So, look, he has really made no secret of the fact he is having mental health struggles. He's talked about it. But it has at times been really severe. His marriage has had real issues over the last few years. And we kind of get into that. I think they're in a really good place now, or a good place. But it has been rocky to a point where we're told, Haley at one point told her mom, I just can't do this anymore. But it seems to all gravitate, Ashley, around money. That, as crazy as this sounds, Justin Bieber made up to $1 billion in his career.
Billion with a B.
With a B. Wow. In 2022, he was broke. So broke, we're told, he borrowed one of his friend's credit cards to play golf. He was broke. And what happened was he had this tour in 2022, the Justice Tour. And during that tour, he just didn't want to do it anymore. He got sick early on, and he just pulled the plug. And he had gotten a huge advance from AEG, which was promoting it, of $40 million. When he pulled the plug, AEG said, we want $24 million back from you because you didn't complete the tour. He didn't have the money. So Scooter Braun, who was his manager, longtime manager, said, look, my company will assume that debt, but Justin, you got to pay me back over 10 years. Well, that started things. So Justin's business manager went to Justin and said, Scooter Braun has screwed you out of a lot of money, $26 million, we think, by charging for commissions he didn't really earn. And Justin was furious and ultimately fired Scooter. But Scooter's company did an audit with an independent company, Price Waterhouse, which does the Oscars.
Yeah. Well known.
It was this 6-month audit, and it came back last month. We've seen this audit. It shows Scooter does not owe Justin any money. Justin owes Scooter over $8 million.
The fans, obviously, there's the super fans, there's the casual fans, but you can't escape, seeing something about Justin Bieber. I think on my feed the other day, I saw something about Justin freaking out on some fans who were rolling video. It looked like a resort of some kind.
No, it was paparazzi.
Was it paparazzi?
Yeah.
But it just did not look like a person who was stable or grounded, and certainly didn't look like a person who's been in front of the cameras for the better part of 20 years. What was that about?
Well, look, he has been going through it. And, I don't know what happened on that day. We're told that Justin goes up and down, in a snap. So, yeah, he went off on them. And look, in fairness to Justin, at a point, there are camera people who have chased him down on the freeway, and it has been his life. And, he's sick of it. And it may have just been he was at Coachella, and that's when it happened, and he snapped. Look, I don't know if it's deeper than that in that instance. I do know that there have just been some mental health struggles that he has been very, very open about.
It just pains me to hear this because I think about all the teen stars, Britney Spears, for one, who just had the weight of the world on them from a time that they were incapable of processing it or putting it into perspective. And it feels as though it's a pretty predictable formula to see what hyper fame does to young people, if not soon, later.
I agree with you, and I've talked to some psychologists about this. And to me, when you hear it, it's really obvious. Justin Bieber was 13 years old when he became a superstar. Justin Bieber never was able to grow as a child into an adult. Because think about when you were 13 and how you developed when you were, 15 and 17 and 19 and 21. At 13, Justin was thrust into this adult world where he didn't grow. He just was part of this adult world as a 13-year-old kid with no ability to develop the way kids normally develop. He was robbed of that by his success. And it should be no surprise when you think about how that can mess with your mind, that suddenly all you're around are adults. You have an adult life. You have adult responsibilities. You don't grow the way kids grow. And when you think of it that way, it just seems so basic because you can think of yourself and just think, wow, if at 13, I just all of a sudden became an adult.
It's day 9 in the criminal case for Sean Diddy Combs. Let's take a look at what happened inside the courtroom.
Diddy's trial at day 9.
After spending 4 days on the stand, Diddy's ex-partner Cassandra Cassie Ventura wrapped up her testimony. On the last day of cross-examination, defense attorneys focused on the end of their relationship, including their breakup. Now, they kept pushing that even though there may have been domestic violence in the relationship, that didn't amount to criminal charges that Diddy's facing. Ventura maintained that she feared for her safety throughout the relationship and was pressured into actions she didn't want to do. Now, Ventura's testimony was vital for prosecutors, and looking ahead could be what sets the tone for the rest of the trial. To break this all down, let's bring in former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Now, Nima, how impactful is Cassie's testimony going to be for the rest of the trial moving forward now?
It is impactful, but I think the government's going to need more. The defense did a good job impeaching her with her own words in those emails and text messages. So what we'll want is, at least from the prosecution perspective, is other witnesses like Don Richard to corroborate what she's saying. Obviously, other victims won't be in the same loving relationship like Cassie was with respect to Diddy. So by corroborating her story, I think the prosecution will be able to overwhelm the defense with the sheer number of victims.
Do you think prosecutors are building their entire case around Cassie, or is there going to be a lot more to see and hear for the jury over the next couple of weeks?
I don't think the prosecution can rely just on Cassie Ventura. There are some challenges there because she was in the relationship for such a long time. And, I represent victims. I believe victims, but there are certain people on the jury that may ask, well, why did she stay if she was being coerced and forced? And, why did she use drugs on all these other occasions when she says she was drugged in the freak-offs? Or, what about Combs having sex with other women while Cassie watched, right? That plays into that swingers argument. So in addition to the emails, the text messages, there were some things that came out during the day and a half of cross-examination that hurt the prosecution. So I don't think they want to go all in on one witness, even though, of course, she is the government's most important witness.
I guess hearing that, do you think she was a strong witness?
I think she was a strong witness. This is part of the psychology of abuse. Anyone who's prosecuted a domestic violence or sexual abuse case understands that sometimes victims even love their abusers. That is not uncommon. The government, of course, will bring on an expert witness to opine to this and testify about this very phenomenon. But jurors are ordinary people, and they probably all know at least one person who is in a toxic relationship. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Okay, well, now that the star witness is done, how do you anticipate this trial is going to go moving forward?
Moving forward, we're going to see a few categories of witnesses. The most important, of course, are other victims. We want people telling the same story of physical and sexual violence if you are the prosecution. Obviously, the defense is going to argue that they're lying because this is all about money. It's a shakedown. Many of them have filed civil lawsuits, or that they want fame or revenge for some reason. And then the other categories of witnesses will be the independent witnesses. So anyone who happened to observe the freak-offs or be percipient. Some of them may be former employees. I mean, the biggest one, of course, is Christina Joram, who is Diddy's right-hand woman. The question is she going to testify? What is she going to say? She really does know where the bodies are buried. And then we'll see law enforcement witnesses as well. We've already started to see that, just to document what was seized from Combs' hotel room in New York and his Los Angeles and Miami homes.
So we've got a long way to go, basically.
Yeah, we're
Thank
barely
you.
getting started.